What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to episode number 80 of the Ambitious Vet Show with Marine Corps veteran and CEO of Combine Arms, John Boerstler. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet Podcast, where we believe that if you desire more than you have in any area of life, you have to become more in the process. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine Corps combat veteran turned social entrepreneur, family man, and personal and professional development leader. On this show, I dive into the trenches with big thinking and conscious veterans who know what it takes to not only pay the bills after the military, but really live with a sense of purpose, satisfaction, and career fulfillment we all desire most after financial stability is no longer a challenge to overcome. Ambitious Vet, if you haven't already, grab your pen and paper. It's time to gain the golden grenades needed to break through your fear barriers and live a life of purpose with passion. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. If you're like me, I value knowledge in the times of crisis and during times where I'm looking to spark new ideas or gain new strategies or proven tactics on improving myself in a certain area of life. Right now, that area is learning how to get out of my head and stay in action on my current life goals without doubting myself or any other bullshit that could just naturally come up a part of the journey. So, what am I listening to right now? Well, it's simple. It's Unfuck Yourself by Gary Bishop. Now, if that doesn't sound like your number one pick, Audible also has thousands of titles from podcasts, Audible wellness programs, theatrical performances, A-list comedy, and exclusive Audible originals you won't find anywhere else. Audible also helps me get more stories and information through the gift of found time by allowing me to listen while commuting, exercising, walking the dog, or relaxing at home. A recent Pew study found that 27% of adults say they haven't read a single book in the past year, due to the lack of time being the number one reason. So, Ambitious Vet, my challenge to you is leverage a free 30-day trial on me and educate, entertain, and engage yourself through audio information that will have you getting the information you need on demand. So, if that sounds like you, simply visit our affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/AMV. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com/AMV. So today, who we have on the show is John Boerstler. He's a United States Marine veteran, also CEO of Combine Arms, serving in the Houston, Texas area. Combine Arms is a forward-thinking nonprofit that is committed to unleashing the impact of veterans on Houston through streamlined assessments and customized resources based on individual veteran needs. Combine Arms is simplifying and accelerating the connection point between veterans and resources. Once you hear the response time, you guys are going to be amazed. Combine Arms deploys a data-driven approach and a collaborative, connected model of service delivery so that veterans and the community are united after the uniform. John has a proven record as an innovative self-starter, social entrepreneur, and effective team member. Since 2007, since his departure of the United States Marine Corps, he hasn't really left the government or military sectors besides one profession, and that was business development manager for an energy company. But even there, he was innovating through streamlining processes that successfully increased the company's customer commercial portfolio by more than 870%. Ambitious Vet. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the trenches with the one and only John Boerstler. Well, here we go, Ambitious Vets. We're back into the trenches again this week with John Boerstler. He's CEO of Combine Arms and also Marine Corps veteran. John, how are you?
Doing great, man. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Despite everything that's going on in the world, this crisis and stuff like that, man, I'm learning how to adapt and overcome, like us Marines know how to do sometimes, you know?
This situation's built for Marines, so it's kind of exciting to be in it. I think in a way, I think we're, you know, if we're being challenged to do more and to step up, I mean, that's all we can ask for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I'm seeing even just like the networks that I'm in and stuff like that, either online and even offline, some people are contracting with the times, and there's also forward thinkers really pushing things forward. And you guys at Combine Arms are doing a damn good job as far as figuring out how do we get ahead of this thing in the future and keep this connection during these, social distancing times, which can be challenging sometimes. So, John, in your own words, man, what would you say you do and what are you passionate about?
Yeah. So, what I do is trying to really move the needle on military transition policy and really trying to figure out like what we can do at the community level to ensure that veterans and their families make a successful transition, not by the time they get here from off of active duty or not 10 years down the road, but proactively kind of reaching out further upstream to get them connected to the resources and the agencies that they need to plug into in order to be successful in civilian life. What I'm passionate about, and when we do that through Combined Arms, of course, through our mission, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But what I'm passionate about is really fundamentally changing the way that the Defense Department does transition. Because currently, as you all know, and most of us know that are listening, when we step off of the installation in California or Missouri or Virginia and we come back to places like Texas or Ohio or Oregon, we're creating about 250,000 displaced workers every year, 250,000 young men and women that don't have professional and personal networks in those communities that they're returning to. And so it's a challenge. And so if we can somehow plug the installation, the DoD TAP and the Soldier for Life and all the programs in with the communities that we return to, who are ultimately responsible for our successful transition from military to civilian life, then I feel like I'll have accomplished my life's work and my life's mission, and maybe I'll hang it up and go do something else.
Yeah, that's so true, because even the volume of veterans that come through like our online communities right now, a lot of them are just like, the system is corrupt and I don't get what I want when I want it. And I think there's a kind of like an even between there, right? So I think that, like, yes, you do need to go through a proper vetting process to get resources, but also you guys have found a way to really even break that gap, because you are vetting people through a customized, just experience, through assessments, and then a 96 hour response rate with agencies. I think you guys have over 72 membership organizations inside your guys' Rolodex right now, which is super impressive. And yeah, I mean, just a lot of veterans that come inside of our network are always just like, man, the VA is not getting me what I want. And it's just not a personable experience. And I just acknowledge you, man, for getting ahead of that problem, because I'm finding it to be an issue over here with us, with our audience that listen to the show and stuff like that. So Ambitious Vet, if you're listening to this and you're just looking for a way to not kind of just plug into the system that's been going on for decades and kind of get into a new, kind of a new platform that is innovating how we actually leverage technology to accelerate you to resources, John and his team at Combine Arms are doing a great job of that. We'll be right back into the trenches with John right after thanking our sponsors. Are you ready to get creative with your functional fitness during these times of quarantine? Or maybe you just want to challenge yourself and are tired of fitness apps that are just not cutting it. If that's you, it's time for a more tactical approach that will work your whole body to prepare any of you aspiring triathletes, first responders, or even everyday professionals here looking to create a well-rounded functional fitness solution to your everyday exercise regimen. Brute Force sandbags are without a doubt the top selling and top performing and most used sandbag in the industry. This sandbag is found everywhere from garage gyms to CrossFit boxes to the U.S. Navy, and will humble even the most athletic athletes right out of the gate. Brute Force sandbags come in dozens of styles and weight. These 100% American-made training products are built for the toughest training on the planet. Brute Force trains accordingly. Do you? Well, they offer free shipping domestically in the U.S. Every Brute Force training sandbag component carries a Brute Force Shield warranty, standing behind their sandbags 100%, so you can buy with confidence. Don't like it? Send it back. They also have a 30-day money-back guarantee, Ambitious Vet. So if you want one, simply click the link in the show notes below to check out all of what Brute Force provides to equip you to train accordingly. Now, let's get back to the show. John, I want to go back to you, man. I know that you're a former crayon eater just like me. Crayon eating and stuff like that when you get out of the uniform doesn't get you too far, right? So tell us about the first few years of you being out of the Corps and some of the landmines you hit and how'd you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the most embarrassing memories that I have getting my first job 13 years ago was literally bringing my resume to an interview, and luckily the guy I was interviewing with was a retired Army officer, and he had known I was qualified in, and he's like, "You got to take this stuff off, man, because no one understands what any of this means. No one understands the acronyms and the jargon." Like,
Yeah.
so he took me under his wing and he mentored me, and I thankfully accepted that, and then he actually hired me, which is even more impressive. But it was a struggle to like really understand the value that I brought, and I know a lot of our veterans face that upon transition from military to civilian life, like what skills are transferable into the civilian world. So that was a pretty big wake up call. I think a lot of other things, it's just trying to find purpose and just trying to connect with other vets out there and find them. When I got out 13 years ago, it was incredibly difficult to locate everybody, and we didn't have the apparatus I think that's built now, thankfully, for veterans coming out now and in the future. But I think trying to connect with each other, and really understanding how to create that professional and personal network that can help you in so many ways be successful in civilian life. But yeah, there's probably a bunch of other ones, but I think that was the most that was one of the biggest landmines I hit, is like just completely just gaffing my resume up, and then delivering that to civilians and former military alike. And thankfully, the former military took me aside and said, "Hey, before we send this up to HR, so I can actually hire you, here's how to unscrew your resume, there, devil dog." So that's I'm sure that's a pretty common one that we see out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just thank you for, breaking that down because I think it is. I think it is a real issue with that 3-year window when you're first getting out of whatever respective branch you're in, ambitious vet. It's going to be skill translation, it's going to be resume writing, it's going to be interview prep. And also don't forget that good old networking and figuring out how to create, I think what LinkedIn calls it, like an open loop networking process versus a closed loop, which is pretty much you just being connected with other veterans inside your network that may not have the resources you need to, career advance or go where you want to be after uniform comes off. So that's a really, really good point. So, you know, John, I mean, I would just unpackage it just a little bit more. So like for you, what was an example? When was it just like, man, professional and personal networking was like the thing? Can you give us an example of like, you were just like, man, aha, it's the personal and professional networking thing that keeps my life moving forward. What would be like an example of that?
Yeah, so there weren't organizations like the Mission Continues out there yet, that were here in Texas. At least there weren't. Team Rubicon hadn't been founded yet. IAVA was just trying to kind of getting off the ground, but they were more in DC and New York. So we had to essentially create our own net to catch other veterans in. So we started setting up softball teams and happy hours and professional networking luncheons and inviting employers to come. So we were rebuilding that, not only the camaraderie that we had on active duty, but we were also rebuilding the professional network, and now the community that we return to. And that essentially became kind of version 1.0 of what is now Combined Arms. And so when we solved for those problems of gap in skills, gap in network, gap in professional professional folks and nodes in my ecosystem, we solve for all those problems. And even though we something
Versus the platforms, the tools, stuff like that, what were the gaps? And I think a lot of the times we don't sit back. We're always in the scarcity mindset of just constantly looking to execute, and we don't sit back and be like, man, what is the gaps? And I just acknowledge you guys for doing that. And it sounds like you did that for yourself, man, because it looks like you've done a pretty damn good job as far as developing your superpower, which is business development, always building, strategic partnerships, man. And it just sounds like specifically, that's your superpower in building combined arms, and also just a lot of other opportunity, probably in and out of your business life, which is pretty awesome. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about getting not only your own brand out there, but the brand of veterans in general, so that we're representing our brothers and sisters in the most positive way. I mean, I think there's a lot of misinterpretations and misrepresentations out there in the community of who we are as people. And I think, as long as we can combat that and overcome that quote unquote negative narrative in any way we can, that's really what we're always trying to do in terms of developing relationships in the civilian world.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. So, I mean, I want to kind of get this on the court because what you guys are doing is pretty innovative. And I was, Ambitious Vet, if you're listening to this, I was looking at their impact report for 2019, and the numbers that they're able to put up as far as impact just in like the Houston area and that part of Texas alone is pretty impressive. I mean, over 72 plus member organizations, partnerships, specializing in mental well-being, career, social connectivity, financial stability. Within those member organizations, over 420 plus resources being provided. And one cool stat, Ambitious Vet, that I found that they are really doing a good job at as well is over 1,000 veterans in 2019, actually found new careers with a medium starting salary at $60,000 and starting salary, which is unheard of just getting out of the uniform if you don't know how to self-promote yourself. So to kind of get this more on the court, John, I mean, in the world that we live in, at least at this point, it's March of 2020, and we're in the social distancing age where, we've got to worry about coughing versus farting now, in the world. And, the world's in this crisis of isolation thing. And how can an ambitious vet that's constantly looking to move forward in their career, their life, their business, how can they move forward with combined arms with your guys' innovative technology that accelerates where they're at with the resources that are going to move them forward? How are you guys doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so with our network and with the technology platforms that we have, we've been able to really leverage everything that we've built in preparing for situations like these. So 3 years ago, we had Hurricane Harvey, which was one of the most devastating storms in modern history. And we really united the community, the veteran community, in order to respond to that and serve not only one another, but serve the greater civilian community by mobilizing 2,500 veterans within the first couple of days to respond to rescue operations and house smucking operations. And I mean, that's the kind of resilience that we've seen over time. And it really tested our system, but it showed how our system could be used in times of crisis. And so this is no different during the coronavirus scare going on. And really one of the biggest issues that we see is social isolation. And if we are over time, whether that's days or weeks or God forbid even months, that we're practicing social distance in order to stop or slow the spread of coronavirus, there's a lot of veterans and family members and civilians alike that are gonna experience that social isolation. So we're really trying to combat that social isolation by converting all of our in-person events that we had planned for March and April into virtual events. So if you go to our website or if you join our newsletter or check out our Facebook page, all of our events have been converted into virtual events. So we have a huge Christian veterans group. We have a huge LGBTQ plus veterans group. We have veterans in energy, veterans in tech. All of these groups meet on a weekly, monthly basis, usually for a networking lunch or a happy hour or something like that. We're going to be pulling all of these in online and encouraging folks to chime in and continue to experience that camaraderie, continue to experience that professional and personal networking to combat social isolation and connect with each other. So definitely excited about that. We're also going to be hosting a town hall with our VA hospital directors in the region to talk about the VA's response and how veterans can access their services and get tested, et cetera. So there's a lot of great information coming out in that fantastic partnership with VA. We're also empowering veterans to lead kind of at the tactical level, the neighborhood level. So within quote unquote grenade range of where we are practicing social distance or quarantining ourselves, how can we get involved and really help those more vulnerable populations, those elderly populations, whether they're veterans or non-veterans, it doesn't matter. Like people, like if we're well equipped as a tribe in order to go out and help these individuals and their families. So if you check out our website tomorrow and our e-newsletter and our social media tomorrow, we're going to be publishing our Good Neighbor Initiative, which is going to be, and by the time we publish this podcast, of course, the Good Neighbor Initiative will hopefully have some great success by basically giving each veteran and family member and community leader at the neighborhood level a toolkit to go out and engage those individuals using Nextdoor as an app or using WhatsApp, using Facebook to connect with folks and actually get out there and lead at the tactical level with these tools. And then finally, we're putting a big call out in Texas for any veterans and family members who have healthcare experience, whether you were a 68 whiskey in the Army or a Navy corpsman or a flight medic in the Air Force, or after service you went and got your RN or your BSN or an MD or something like that. We want, or you have a combat lifesavers course and you got good at that. You appreciated that kind of stuff. And I didn't learn enough and I didn't transfer that skill, unfortunately. But trying to mobilize those individuals with those skills and experience so that they can actually step up to surge in the larger major metropolitan areas that haven't already ordered a shelter in place. So places like New York and San Francisco and Seattle have already done so. Other major metropolitan areas and maybe even some more suburban and rural areas may do the same thing. So we need to be prepared as those who have served before and in uniform to step up and serve out of uniform if we have these skills and experience. We're going to catalog those individuals and ask them to identify themselves. And when the go order is made by the Texas Met of this effort.
With Combine Arms around how do we leverage the tools to serve, not take, right? How do we get more generous in these times of crisis? Because, as we were saying at the beginning of this episode, if you're a Marine, you're listening to this, man, this is what we were created to do, right? We were created to adapt and overcome, be able to serve in spite of almost impossible circumstances to make sure the betterment of humanity is done. And Combine Arms I couldn't think of a better organization to help team up. And obviously you can see they have missions, they have objectives, and they have tools and frameworks to just kind of plug into if you're figuring out how you want to serve in this thing, not to mention the great connections and networks that they have partnered up with 72 plus membership organizations, and not to mention their local tactical lunch and learns groups and stuff like that. So I charge you, Ambitious Vet, to plug into that network and serve. Do not take. Leverage these social tools to connect. Don't take. So John, man, back over there to you, man. What would be 3 golden grenades you could drop in right now to empower any veteran that's been out of the uniform for 3+ years? They're struggling with that life satisfaction, especially in this stage of life. Maybe a little fulfillment or finding more sense of purpose after financial stability is no longer a challenge to overcome. What would be 3 golden grenades that you drop in right now?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think in order to really figure out your next mission, your next, to keep that identity, that purpose, that identity of service, that purpose that we had in uniform, ask someone else who's involved and who you kind of view as making that successful transition into finding that satisfaction, fulfillment, and empowerment and sense of purpose. Ask them for advice, because no matter what, everyone always loves to give advice. They'll always meet up for coffee or a beer or what have you, to let you know how they've solved for that problem. I think we all, in trying to find that identity and purpose and service in outside the uniform, so to speak. It's really hard to find, in some cases. In some cases, it's very easy to find. But engaging in the veteran serving organizations that are offering civic and volunteer engagement is a great way to do it. So your Travis Manion Foundations, your Mission Continues, your Team Rubicons, volunteering if you're going to school at Student Veterans of America chapters. Just getting involved in other local civic organizations that are non-veteran serving organizations, your homeowners association or other civic organizations that do lots of great things in the community. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that you can do. So when you do raise your hand, when you do step up as a community leader, trying to seek that satisfaction, fulfillment, and sense of purpose after leaving the military, but you're doing well now in life, you're one of the A's and B's in life, I encourage you to reach out to us and download our mobile application. Our mobile application is essentially just a forward-facing version of our online platform that connects veterans into those 420 resources that you mentioned, Chris, into that then correspond to those 72 member organizations, but it does it in lightning speed. So if I were to meet a veteran as a community leader out at a play date, or a splash pad event, or a LGBTQ happy hour, or a Christian lunch, and they said that they needed help navigating the benefit system, or they said they needed help finding employment or accessing mental health, you can do that with 3 clicks. We got to keep it easy for us Marines. You can do that in 3 clicks, 20 seconds, to get that veteran access to resources. And the same rules of accountability apply. When the agency receives that referral, they have 96 hours to get back to that veteran. Otherwise, it'll be reassigned. And then finally, the other golden grenade that I would throw out there is, if you can get involved in mentoring other veterans that are making that transition, albeit if you don't have time because you got a young family or your job demands, check out like Veterati. They're an online mentoring platform that's through LinkedIn, and everyone should have a LinkedIn profile, because you got a year free premium when you got out of the service in the last 5 years. So you better take advantage of that. You can connect in with Veterati, and you can sign up as a mentor and let people know when you're available. And then just get involved. If you have a company veteran resource group or employee resource groups, whether that's veteran specific or not, get involved in those. Or if you don't have a veterans resource group, start one. I mean, we've got tools to give you step-by-step guidance on what some of the big organizations, the medium-sized organizations, and the small organizations have done to start a veteran resource group. And that's a way that you can impact and involve all 3 of these golden grenades that I've mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think ambitious vet that you're listening to this, I mean, if you haven't already been like, wow, taking notes on this, and then hearing your one golden grenade that you can implement this next week to start creating connectiveness inside of this whole social distancing age. I don't know what you're listening to, but ambitious vet, I just challenge you to find one gold grenade out of this episode and actually go and implement it in your life. If it's a civic organization, like John was saying, if it's just asking for advice from a subject matter expert that you want to be forwarding your career in, or if it's just identifying your identity or purpose, connecting through Combined Arms technology to figure out what organization it would be to help bridge that gap. It sounds like they're a one-stop shop from getting to where you are to where you want to go, which is what we love as veterans that want to get somewhere quickly sometimes. So John, man, how can an ambitious vet go to connect with you? How can they learn more about Combined Arms and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to find me specifically on LinkedIn, just look for my terrible German last name. It's, Chris pronounced it correctly, like bursting bomb and slur, but it's spelled nothing like that. It's Boerstler. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Combined Arms website, it's just combinedarms.us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're not on Snapchat because I have no idea what that is. We download our mobile application. Check us out. If you want to access the mobile application, let me know. We'll get you set up. We'll get you a video to get trained on it. But like I said, that's the best way to engage with us, and we'd love to see you out there.
Well, there you have it, Ambitious Vet. John, I just want to thank you for just being someone out there, man, that's not contracting in this age of, man, like what's going on in the world. I'm waiting for where this thing goes, but really being in action, in the trenches, making this happen, you and your team at Combined Arms, man, because it inspires a lot of us that want to be doing something, but don't know how to. You're giving us avenues to serve, man. So thank you for that. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris, and hope you guys are doing well, and we're looking forward to having you here in Texas soon.
Oh man, we're excited to get out there to Dallas, man.
Right on.
There you have it, Ambitious Vet, episode number 80 of the Ambitious Vet Show in the books. If you're enjoying this show, show us by simply subscribing to your favorite listener app and leaving a review. If you want to learn more about what we're doing globally with the Ambitious Vet Network to empower you with innovative tools and resources, simply just visit vettrainingandcoaching.com.